This is a very, very tragic situation for us. We understand the gravity of this. Quite frankly, these type of cases are difficult cases for us to solve unless we have tips and information that come in from the community to help us solve this. And our homicide investigators are going to be working relentlessly over the next 24 and 48 hours to find out who's responsible for this particular murder.
That question followed investigators in Fresno long after a 36-week pregnant woman was found burned to death in a northwest Fresno alley. However, as detectives worked backward through her final hours, the case took a turn that even seasoned homicide investigators described as deeply unsettling. Because the person responsible was not a stranger nor a criminal lurking in the dark, but someone who had grown up beside her, shared her home, and eaten at the same table. It was her own brother. Even more disturbing, police had already flagged him as a serious threat just 18 months earlier, placing him on a mandatory psychiatric hold, a decision that raised a single chilling question after her death. Why was he still there when he finally acted?
Upon further investigation, we were able to discover that the victim in this case, who has since been identified as 26-year-old Naya Logan, had been stabbed and then set on fire. She was also approximately 36 weeks pregnant. As a matter of fact, she had just had a baby shower this previous Sunday because she fully intended to give birth to her child, who they had named Noah.
But before we dive into how this nightmare unfolded and the shocking attempts to destroy all evidence, let me take you back to 1996, when a little girl named Naya Rebecca Logan was born in Fresno, California. Naya came into a world where her mother, Donna Barkus, raised her with values centered on perseverance, strength, and the importance of family bonds. Throughout middle school and high school, she poured her energy into cheerleading, forming lifelong friendships, and showing everyone around her what it meant to embrace life with unbridled enthusiasm. Alessandra Torres, one of Naya's closest friends from those cheerleading days, remembered how their birthdays fell just one day apart, creating a special bond that extended well beyond their school years. As Naya moved forward in life, she enrolled at Fresno City College, dedicating herself to the early childhood education program. Naya genuinely loved children, drawn to the idea of shaping young minds during their most formative years. She gained hands-on experience at the Fresno City College Child Development Center, where she worked directly with young kids who adored her gentle, nurturing presence. Her instructor, Deborah Lewis, who served as the coordinator of child development at the college, described Naya as someone precious, gentle, and kind, radiating warmth in every interaction. In 2022, Naya completed her program, earning her degree and preparing to work as a teacher's assistant, positioning herself at the threshold of a fulfilling career. Her future stretched out before her, filled with promise and purpose. But there was something else on the horizon that filled her heart even more completely than her career dreams. Naya was going to be a mother. At 26 years old, Naya found herself 36 weeks pregnant, carrying a baby boy she had already named Noah. 36 weeks meant she was approximately 8 months along, so close to meeting her son that she could practically count the days on her fingers. On December 11, 2022, just 2 days before her world would end, Naya hosted a baby shower to celebrate Noah's impending arrival. The celebration featured a blue theme, honoring the baby boy who would soon complete their family. Friends and family gathered around Naya, sharing in her joy, offering gifts and well wishes for the journey ahead. Naya lived with her mother, Donna Barkus, and older brother, Aaron Jamal Dudley, in a home in northwest Fresno. Born around 1981, Dudley was approximately 41 years old at the time, making him 15 years older than his sister. The family dynamics appeared relatively normal on the surface, with a mother and her 2 adult children coexisting under one roof, but beneath that facade, something had been off with Dudley for years. Dudley's history contained warning signs that in retrospect painted a troubling picture. In 2001, he was convicted of first-degree residential burglary, a serious felony that counted as a strike offense under California's 3 strikes law. This wasn't some minor transgression or youthful mistake, yet that conviction was just the beginning of a pattern that would eventually end in unspeakable horror. On July 28, 2021, roughly a year and a half before Nikaya's murder, Fresno police responded to a disturbing call at the family home. Reports indicated that Dudley posed a threat to himself or others, leading to his involuntary detention under California's Welfare and Institutions Section 5150. This legal mechanism allows authorities to hold someone for 72 hours for psychiatric evaluation when they're deemed dangerous. More disturbingly, during this incident, Nikaya reportedly expressed fear for her own safety. Yet, after those 72 hours elapsed, Dudley was released back into the same home where Nikaya lived. No charges were filed from that incident, and privacy laws prevent disclosure of any evaluation outcomes or treatments that may have occurred during his psychiatric hold. Consequently, the family continued living together, presumably attempting to move forward from whatever crisis had precipitated that emergency intervention. The morning of December 13, 2022 began like countless others before it. Donna Barkas left for work, leaving Nikaya and Dudley at home together, unaware that she would never see her daughter alive again. Nobody knows exactly what transpired in those hours before noon, what words were exchanged, or what trigger finally pushed Dudley over the edge he'd been teetering on for years.
What investigators later determined was that sometime that morning, inside the family home they all shared, Dudley attacked his pregnant sister with an edged weapon, most likely a knife. Nikaya was stabbed multiple times, enduring a brutal assault that cannot be overstated in its viciousness. Even more horrifically, the wounds included stabs to her uterus, directly attacking not just Nikaya, but the baby boy growing inside her. When Nikaya finally stopped breathing and Noah's life ended before he ever drew his first breath, Dudley's work wasn't finished. He needed to dispose of the evidence, to hide what he'd done from the world and potentially escape accountability altogether. Dudley moved Nikaya's body to the garage, where he placed her remains in a city-issued green waste trash bin, the kind typically used for yard debris and organic materials. Then, in full view of surveillance cameras installed at the family home, he wheeled that trash bin out of the yard and down the street. The footage, later recovered by investigators, showed Dudley dressed in a blue shirt and jeans, calmly pushing the container that held his sister's body westbound on Holland Avenue toward Cornelia Avenue. He traveled approximately 4 blocks through the neighborhood in broad daylight, passing homes and businesses. His destination was an unpaved dirt alley near the 4400 block of North Cornelia Avenue. The location sat adjacent to an apartment complex, bordered by a vacant field, and provided enough seclusion for what Dudley intended to do next. He positioned the trash bin, then retrieved gasoline and poured it over Nikaya's body, methodically preparing to destroy the evidence of his crime. Then he set his sister on fire. One witness, walking back to his apartment in the area, noticed someone matching Dudley's description bending down near the green waste bin. Suddenly, flames erupted, initially appearing to come from within the bin, but actually originating behind it. The witness, sensing something was deeply wrong, recorded the incident on his cell phone and later provided crucial video evidence to authorities. Maintenance workers from the nearby apartment complex were the first to respond, grabbing an extinguisher in a desperate attempt to douse the flames before professional responders could arrive. Their actions revealed the horror that lay beneath those flames, the charred remains of a visibly pregnant woman. Fresno police and fire departments arrived shortly after 12:30 that afternoon. The victim was pronounced dead at the scene, and investigators immediately recognized they were dealing with something extraordinary in its evil. The investigation had only just begun, but already the brutality of what occurred was apparent to everyone on scene. What made identification possible were small details that survived the flames, acrylic nails that remained on her hands. Meanwhile, Donna Barkas returned home from work that evening to find Nkaya missing and unresponsive to phone calls, growing increasingly worried as night fell. She reported her daughter missing, which accelerated the police investigation into connecting the burned body found that afternoon to the Logan Barkas family. Officers showed Barkas photographs of those acrylic nails recovered from the victim, and she immediately recognized them as belonging to Nkaya. At that moment, a mother's worst nightmare became a horrifying reality. This discovery led detectives straight back to the family home, where they obtained a search warrant and began processing what would prove to be an overwhelming crime scene. Inside that house, forensic investigators found extensive blood evidence, illuminated by special chemicals designed to detect blood traces that might otherwise go unnoticed. Blood covered the living room couch and floor, clear indicators where the attack had occurred. However, the bathroom revealed something even more disturbing. Nearly 90% of the bathtub, including the walls and ceiling, was covered in blood spatter. Additional blood evidence was found in the garage, marking the path Dudley had taken as he moved his sister's body toward that trash bin. When questioned about all this blood, Dudley offered an explanation that investigators immediately dismissed as absurd. He claimed it all resulted from a minor toe injury. Think about the sheer volume of blood required to coat almost an entire bathroom, including the ceiling, and then the blood trail extending from the living room through the garage. Detectives determined this explanation was completely inconsistent with the quantity and distribution of blood evidence throughout the home. Nevertheless, investigators had more than just blood evidence. They had that surveillance footage from the home showing Dudley leaving with the trash bin. They had witness accounts from multiple people who saw him in the alley near the burning body. One bystander had even captured a photograph believed to show Dudley standing over Nkaya's remains. The trash bin itself was later found near the home, recently washed out in another futile attempt to destroy evidence. Every piece of evidence pointed in one direction. On December 14, 2022, the day after Nkaya's body was discovered, police returned to the family home to execute their search warrant and arrest Dudley. When officers knocked on the door, Dudley attempted to flee, but his flight didn't last long. He was apprehended and booked into Fresno County Jail at 5:43 that afternoon.
Liv, and you got a chance to speak with Nakaya's friends today.
I did, Alexon, and each and every one of them said Nakaya had an infectious smile and laugh. She lit up every room that she walked into, and she couldn't wait to have her baby.
She was lovable, she was caring, she had this infectious laugh that just made you want to just laugh more and more.
Alessandra Torres grew up with Nakaya Rebecca Long, cheering together through middle school and high school with their birthdays just one day apart.
She was just full of light and just laughter.
It was on social media that Torres found out about what happened to her friend, 26-year-old Nakaya, who was 36 weeks pregnant. She was found fatally stabbed and set on fire in a trash can in an alley on Tuesday.
I was just in a state of shock. I couldn't believe my eyes what I saw.
Alexandria Cervantes, a longtime friend of Nakaya, says she was studying at Fresno City College to become a child care worker and couldn't wait to have her baby. She held a baby shower just 2 days before she was killed.
She was really happy, and I was supposed to be the godmom of the baby.
Her loved ones saying Nakaya will be remembered for her compassion, bright smile, and infectious laugh.
She was always laughing, she was always smiling. She was just a bundle of light, basically.
Dudley's arraignment is scheduled for tomorrow, and in addition to those two charges. He also faces 2 enhancements of use of a deadly weapon and special circumstances of multiple. If convicted of all of these charges, he faces the death penalty or life without the possibility of parole. Live in Fresno, I'm Liv Johnson, KC24, local news that matters.
At a press conference following Dudley's arrest, Fresno Police Chief Paco Balderrama addressed the calculated nature of the crime, directly refuting any suggestion that Dudley didn't understand his actions. Despite the 2021 psychiatric hold, Balderrama emphasized that Dudley's post-crime behavior demonstrated clear competence and awareness. This wasn't someone experiencing a psychotic break who didn't comprehend reality. The absence of a disclosed motive leaves us with haunting questions. Was there an argument that morning that escalated beyond all reason? Had Dudley been harboring resentment toward his sister for reasons we'll never understand? Did his mental health issues from 2021 resurface in a catastrophic way? On December 15, 2022, the Fresno County District Attorney's Office filed formal charges against Aaron Jamal Dudley. He faced 2 counts of murder under California Penal Code Section 187, one for Nkia and one for her unborn son, Noah. District Attorney Lisa Smitkamp explained that under California law, fetal murder charges apply when a fetus has developed beyond 7 to 8 weeks gestation, regardless of whether the fetus could survive outside the womb. At 36 weeks, Noah was far beyond that threshold, making his death legally constitute murder in addition to his mother's killing. But the charges didn't stop there. Dudley also faced special circumstances enhancements for multiple murders under Section 190.2 of the California Penal Code and additional enhancements for using a deadly weapon under Section 12022. Under California law, the special circumstances made Dudley eligible for either execution or life imprisonment with absolutely no chance of ever walking free again. At his arraignment on December 16, 2022, Dudley entered pleas of not guilty to all charges. His bail was initially denied entirely due to flight risk concerns, though it was later set at $2.1 million after a preliminary hearing. That preliminary hearing took place over 2 days in early June 2023. For 2 days, Judge Adolfo Corona heard testimony from detectives who had processed the crime scene, witnesses who had seen Dudley near the burning body, and forensic experts who detailed the blood evidence found throughout the family home. The evidence presented was comprehensive and damning: surveillance footage, witness accounts, forensic analysis, and Dudley's own implausible explanations for the blood evidence. At the conclusion of the hearing, Judge Corona ruled that sufficient evidence existed to advance the case to trial. Dudley would stand trial for the murders of his sister and nephew, represented by defense attorneys Emily Takawa and Jonathan Richter from Sumo and Associates. And then something strange happened. The case essentially disappeared from public view.
Today, the brother of 26-year-old Naya Logan, who is accused of the pregnant woman and setting her body on fire, appeared in court. Aaron Dudley charged with 2 counts of murder, one for his sister and one for her unborn baby. Our Liv Johnson joins us live from the courthouse with details. Liv?
Yeah, Jennifer, Dudley pleaded not guilty to all charges today, including the murder of his sister and unborn nephew. Now, if he is found guilty of all of these charges, he faces the penalty or life in prison without the possibility of parole. In handcuffs and a red jumpsuit, 41-year-old Aaron Dudley appeared in court on Friday to plead not guilty to murdering his 26-year-old sister Naya Rebecca Logan and her unborn son, who would have been named Noah, who was expected to be born in just a few weeks. Dudley facing charges for the murder of the unborn child because he would have survived outside of the womb. Police Chief Paco Balderrama saying Dudley was caught while running away from police.
We had suspicions that it could be the brother may have been involved, and he ran for police, which is something very typical of a guilty person.
Dudley is accused of stabbing Naya to death and then lighting her body on fire in a trash can. Balderrama says the call they got on Tuesday wasn't Dudley's first run-in with the cops.
The Fresno Police Department received a call on July the 28th of 2021, so about a year and a half ago, where the suspect in this case was deemed to be a threat to either himself or someone else, and was placed on I believe it was a 72-hour hold.
Balderrama believes Dudley knew exactly what he was doing when he allegedly committed the horrific crime.
This is a person who had the wherewithal to try to clean up the evidence, try to dispose of the body, ran when the police came to knock on the door to see what was going on. So this is not somebody who does not know what he's doing.
If convicted of all charges, Dudley faces the death penalty or life without the possibility of parole. Balderrama says the motive is still unknown.
It's pretty relevant in my opinion. I mean, it takes an awful lot of evil, hate, planning to stab your own sister multiple times.
Dudley has been denied bail and he will appear in court again on January 5th. Live from the courthouse, I'm Liv Johnson, KC24, local news that matters.
A sad situation. Thank you, Liv.
Court calendars showed various settlement conferences scheduled throughout 2024, including dates in March, July, and September of that year. However, as of today, there are absolutely no reports of a trial verdict, plea deal, or sentencing. The case simply seems to have stalled in the legal system, frozen in time somewhere between preliminary hearing and final resolution. This absence of updates might reflect delays typical in California capital-eligible cases, which often take 15 to 20 years from arrest to final resolution due to appeals, continuances, and system backlogs. Dudley's 2021 psychiatric hold could also have prompted competency evaluations that might delay proceedings, though no such evaluations have been documented in public records. While the legal system slowly grinds toward whatever final chapter we'll write in this story, the human cost of Dudley's actions cannot be measured in court proceedings or legal terminology. Donna Barkis lost her daughter and grandson in the most horrific way imaginable, at the hands of her own son. In interviews following Nkia's death, Barkis described being completely unable to imagine her son capable of such an act, while simultaneously making clear she distinguished between loving him as her child and condemning his actions.
41-year-old Aaron Dudley faces 2 counts of murder in the deaths of his sister, Naya, and Logan, and her unborn baby. Nikaya's family spoke with Action News anchor Brittany Jacob about this unthinkable tragedy.
Sometimes it feels like a dream. You just want to wake up and everything's okay, and she's right there, but she's not.
Donna Barkis is the mother of Naya Logan, the 26-year-old pregnant woman murdered by her brother in Northwest Fresno this week. Authorities have arrested and charged 41-year-old Aaron Dudley with the murder of Naya and her unborn baby, Noah. Barkis remembers frantically looking for her daughter when she got home from work on Tuesday.
Where's my daughter? Why isn't she answering the phone? You know, it's getting dark. It is dark, and she's not home. She's 8 months pregnant. She's not answering.
Detectives believe Dudley Logan and her child numerous times. They say he then put her body in a trash can and set it on fire. Barkis tells me how she's still in shock and barely able to function. She says she could never have imagined him doing such a thing.
That was my son. The actions were not him. I loved him. I did not love his actions. I love my daughter. It's a hard situation for any mother to have to go through.
Just last Sunday, the family threw Naya a baby shower with a blue theme for baby Noah.
A beautiful spirit. She loved her friends and family. She loved God.
Barkis says Naya loved to dance, and she had just completed the early childhood education program at Fresno City College to become a teacher's assistant.
Always, taught her about having goals, not to give up, be strong, never give up, and you will succeed. And that's how she lived her life.
Barkis is taking it one day at a time, always remembering her sweet girl and her future grandson.
With God's help and prayer, and the strength of my family, I'm sure I'll survive.
In Fresno, Brittany Jacob, ABC 30 Action News.
The State Center Community College District, which operates Fresno City College, where Naya studied, issued a statement emphasizing that they viewed her not merely as a statistic in the city's homicide count, but as one of their own whose death was beyond comprehension. Her friends and classmates gathered to mourn, sharing memories of someone whose presence had enriched all their lives. And Naya's funeral service was held on January 21, 2023, at Jesse E. Cooley Jr. Funeral Service, Inc. in Fresno. Friends, family, classmates, instructors, and community members gathered to pay their respects to a woman whose 26 years on Earth had touched so many lives in such positive ways. And Naya Rebecca Logan became yet another tragic statistic in Fresno's 2022 homicide numbers, marking the city's 57th and 58th homicides of that year when counting her unborn son. However, to everyone who knew her, she was so much more than a number. This case represents more than just individual tragedy. It fits into broader patterns of domestic violence affecting pregnant women, particularly in urban California communities. Fresno saw multiple similar incidents in 2022, with several pregnant women and their unborn children killed in acts of violence. These crimes highlight the vulnerability pregnant women face, particularly when violence comes from within their own families or intimate circles. The intersection of mental health issues, family dynamics, and proximity creates a perfect storm where conflicts can escalate into unthinkable violence. Dudley's 2021 psychiatric hold demonstrated that warning signs existed, that intervention had been attempted, but that the systems in place weren't sufficient to prevent what eventually occurred. Most disturbingly, Naya had even expressed her fear for her safety during that incident, yet less than 18 months later, she was dead at his hands. As we wait for whatever final chapter the legal system will write in this story, we're left contemplating questions that may never have satisfactory answers. What could have been done differently? Were there intervention points that were missed? Could Naya have been protected from the brother she lived with, the person she should have been able to trust implicitly? Let me know what you think in the comments section. Click on one of the cards on your screen to see more videos like this.